Hi everyone, I'm back with another Diablo 4 video and I want to talk about invincible builds and the problems they cause. So a lot of you guys might have seen these like Necromancer clips with this blood mist, infinite invincibility, corpse explosion combo. There was like one item that enabled you to basically just stay in blood mist permanently, making you invincible to anything while you're killing everything around you. I also tried it out for like 5 minutes or so until I got completely bored of it and moved on to other builds that were more interesting. And this is not really the only issue that the game has with these kind of builds though. So I do believe that this combination of items and skills will not make it into the live release, and this is fine, this is needed, but there are other problems that can arise from just regular class abilities. And one of those most shining examples is the challenging shout. So the way that challenging shout works is that it gives you 40% damage reduction for 8 seconds when you use it. It has a 25 seconds cooldown, but you can invest more skills into it to get 5% additively stacking extra damage reduction per point. So at level 5, this is already 60%. And from that point forward, you only need 8 more ranks to achieve 100%, assuming that the scaling continues exactly the same way. Now, the way that usually these abilities work is that for damage skills, like core skills, you get plus 10% of the base value per rank. So you see it goes from 70 to 77, and then plus 7 again, and plus 7, and plus 7, etc. So this is how it works for damage skills. And for utility skills, usually it goes to a lower cooldown value. For example, Ground Stomp has a 16 seconds cooldown, and then the next rank usually gives you minus 5% on the cooldown. So you see here, this is minus 5%, 0.8 seconds, and again, and again, and again. And then we have stuff like Challenging Shout that for some reason is completely different from anything else. So instead of improving the effectiveness of the skill by 10% of the base with each extra rank, it actually scales up way faster than that. And it also doesn't scale down the cooldown. So this is kind of like a special case here. And I think this is something that needs to be solved. So first of all, this is one of the probably very few skills where each additional rank actually becomes worth more and more the more you invest, instead of less and less like on those damage skills. So for example, adding 7% extra damage to 77% is not as good as adding 7% to 70. And then likewise, from going from 84 to 91 is a smaller increase, and then from 91 to 98, it becomes a smaller and smaller increase. This is a bit different for these cooldown skills. Typically, they also have this kind of like more return on the investment, but on the other hand, most of these cooldown skills are also situational. So even if you could, you probably do not want to spam them all the time. So we don't see this kind of like num-locking meta or macro meta that we have seen, for example, in Diablo 3, where you just like spam every skill on your bar every time it's ready. So instead, it's a lot more situational, a lot more tactical, and yeah, having a shorter cooldown is nice and all, but very often not really needed. And the thing is, it can actually improve Challenging Shout in various ways. For example, here's 30% extra duration. So this makes this 8 seconds, 10.4 seconds. And then you can have a bit of cooldown reduction, for example, on your items. I don't know exactly how much you're going to be able to stack, but let's say somewhere in the range of 20 to 30% if you really invest into it in a late game is probably achievable. So this would bring this 25 seconds down to 17, 18, 19 seconds maybe or so. So we're already looking at like more than 50% uptime of this damage reduction effect. But that's not all. There's also, for example, this legendary power here that you can roll. I think this is a utility power. So this could potentially even go on a amulet and maybe have a higher maximum reduction. But what you can see here is that it can actually reduce the cooldown by up to 12 seconds when you have a few enemies nearby. So this would bring this, like, let's say 18 seconds cooldown down to 6 seconds cooldown. Well, then suddenly it's very easy to have permanent uptime on this Challenging Shout. And to top it all off, there are actually various ways to improve the efficiency of this even further. And it's not that hard to actually achieve 100% damage reduction. So as I mentioned, you just need 8 more ranks. And this is apparently quite achievable. So you can see here that we have this post from Daniel Briggs, one of the developers. This is on Twitter here. He posted during the beta, and he said that you can get up to +6 to a skill just from the skill affix that you can roll in your items. So you have seen, for example, core skills roll on gloves, and defensive skills roll on pants, I believe, or chest or something. So you need to have one item that has +6 there, which you can get later on with higher ranks. And then you have the amulet that has like a whole skill category. So for example, amulets can have +3 to all defensive skills, including the challenging shout, for example. And voila, this is already +9. And then there is like another +4 that you can get from probably some unique item. So it's not even that difficult to achieve this 100% damage reduction here, unless there's a cap, which also doesn't really make much sense with the way that the skill scales. Because if there is actually a cap on the amount of damage reduction that Challenging Shout can give you, then you literally cannot get any benefit from ranking the skill higher anymore, which is completely unlike any other skill in the game. So I think the solution is relatively obvious here, that Challenging Shout at the very least needs to be redesigned to not allow this 100% damage reduction, because we're gonna go basically back to the rookie mistakes that we have seen in Diablo 3, for example, or even other games. Like this is just a recurring theme, I guess, in RPGs or in RPG games in general, that you have certain synergistic pieces that just allow like the Exodia combo, basically, where you just become invincible and kill everything, so to say. Especially with Barbarians probably being like the primary damage reduction support, or like primary support character in groups in general, and potentially even the highest DPS on top of that. I think this is definitely something that needs looking into. And a solution could be to just make the bonus scale in a similar fashion as, for example, damage skills. So you get 10% of the base value, but it's like a multiplicative bonus, not an additive bonus, so that you actually couldn't reach 100%. So for example, you have the 40% baseline, and then it will go to like 44, and then it will go to 47 and 50 and 52.5 basically. And it kind of like scales up more slowly, so that maybe with like a rank 15 Challenging Shout, you're only going to have like, I don't know, 70% damage reduction and not like 110%. So something like that. Or it could also just work a bit more similar to the Debilitating Roar. That's the Druid version of the Challenging Shout, which in fact has a fixed damage reduction value of 50%, and it scales down the cooldown by 5% per point, just like most other utility skills. It's actually kind of hilarious to compare those two skills next to each other. I don't think that Debilitating Roar is really such a bad ability, but compared to Challenging Shout, it is no match, basically. And this is also not really the only skill that has this issue here. There are more. For example, on the Rogue, there's the Dark Shroud. Now, it is way harder to actually use Dark Shroud to become invincible. First of all, it scales more slowly. So it starts out at 40% damage reduction. If you have 5 of them, it's 5 times 8. But then it gets plus 10% per level from the base value. So it doesn't scale as fast as Challenging Shout. And this is much harder to achieve. So this would require basically everything stacked up here with not necessarily perfect values, but you need like all of the pieces basically, given that they don't actually overlap in the slots that you can put them on. And also it would only apply to a single hit. So rogues can only become invincible to one hit, and then they would lose 20% damage reduction, and they would be still able to get one shot by anything basically, if you don't stack other defenses. So this is like much harder to do than Challenging Shout, where you have a buff and it's basically permanently up and you're just kind of chilling. I already put part of this into my feedback with way fewer details, but if you want to go check out my entire feedback video, or my document at least, I do have that linked in the description. And yeah, I think at least those shouts, especially Challenging Shout and Barb, definitely need another look, because if this goes live like this, it's gonna be messy. In any case, that's the point I wanted to make for this video here. Let me know your thoughts about it. Are you fine with this, or is there like some other broken stuff that I did not consider here? And just what are your thoughts in general with what Blizzard could do here? So that's it. Hope you liked this one, and see you guys next time.